We have Dixon here interviewing with us. What you expect? One of the newest Rock Nation signee, very talented singer out of Atlanta, Georgia, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, Atlanta, Georgia. So let's get into your childhood and introduction to music first. So you have a lot of gospel influence, I would say.
Yeah.
You incorporated the choir as well in your EP, and just tell us about the gospel influence that's present in your music.
I mean, I listen to gospel like almost every day. I grew up in a church. My father was a pastor. So I think that's been a huge influence over my life and in my music. Um, I I think gospel music is one of those things that if you've ever experienced it, like in person, like in a church or at a concert or something, it's a experience that you don't forget, right? And me growing up in it, I just kind of, you know, I soaked it all in. Like it was exciting for me as a kid to learn these choir songs and all these classic gospel hymns, so I never let it go. And even in my music, I try to run from it sometimes. I try to like purposefully not, go down that lane, but it's so embedded in me that even when I hear it back, I'm just like, yeah, I didn't really run from it at all. So that's been a huge part of my music making and how I approach my sound, just growing up in church and hearing all those different layers, that made people feel something.
Yeah,
I think that's been a big part of the music that I make, just trying to get people to feel and access those emotions.
that that influence is evident in a whole lot of artists. You hear artists like Roddy Rich talk about growing up in the church, and then you hear a song like War Baby, and you can see that gospel influence. So
Yeah.
another artist that has a huge gospel influence in their music is Chance the Rapper. Uh, you're a
Yeah.
collaborator with Chance the Rapper. Tell me how that connection came about.
Yeah, Chance is one of my good friends. And we connected through a series of events. I was touring singing background for Vic Mensa, who is also one of Chance's best friends. And I ended up meeting Vic's. There was a stand-in music director for one show, but it turned out they were really cool and really close friends. They grew up together in childhood, and it was Peter Cottontail. And so I met Peter through Vic, and me and Peter went on to make music together. And when it was time for Chance to start, getting in the studio and working on his last project, Peter actually was one of the guys who sent me a record to start working on, and just kept spiraling and spiraling, into more records and more music. And then I finally got to meet Chance in person. And, we've been rocking ever since. I've since toured with him as a background singer. I'm a frequent collaborator on, the most current music that he's been making. And he's just a really great person, a really great guy, and a really good friend of mine who I'm very grateful to get to work with, because he's opened a lot of doors for me. But I'm also extremely grateful to have met him and connected with him in the way that we did. And now, we have a lifelong friendship. So,
Absolutely, that's amazing. So
yeah.
what's your connection with Chicago? So you've already been in contact with Vic and Chance. What's your connection?
There wasn't really a connection before connecting with Vic. I have family that lives in Chicago. I'd only really been to Chicago to visit, or do a show. And I started working with Chance, and the work just became so much, honestly, that I thought it might be good to just be close by. So I didn't have to keep flying, packing, doing all of that. And I've just kind of been there for the last 2.5 years. And before that too, I was going a lot because I was working with Vic and Peter and all of them. So the connection really started happening around like 2017, 2018. And yeah, I just kind of been there. I've called it home for the last 2.5 years. And I have a lot of friends there and a lot of collaborators there. So the connection just keeps growing deeper, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And on top of that, people may or may not know that you're also on The Voice.
Yeah.
So how was that experience like? That's a big TV show. It's a huge look. How was that experience like being on that show?
I mean, it's exactly what you think it is. It's a very tightly run uh show about music. So there's constant creativity happening around you. Everything you can imagine, like, the show starts with quite a large number of artists that are, vying for that spot. And just every day was just a big music room, like people off in the corner rehearsing. And then, the beautiful part about The Voice is that they really do connect you with professionals in the business. So every day, we have either a rehearsal with a professional band, or voice lessons with a professional vocal coach, or you're talking with a professional stage director and you're learning about performance and how it all works. And I think The Voice is just one of those things. If you take in the experience as a whole and you really soak up what you learn in that space, then I think it's a training ground for professional artists. If being on The Voice is just about the clout and the look, then, and you miss all the important lessons that you're learning in real time, then I think The Voice would do somebody a disservice. For me, I feel like The Voice taught me exactly what I'm doing now as a professional: how to show up for yourself, how to show up on time, how to, give 100%. Whenever, whether the camera's on you or whether the camera's off of you, and I've taken those lessons and parlayed them into what I consider a pretty successful career so far.
Absolutely. So around what time period, how long have been doing music before you appeared on The Voice?
I've been doing music my whole life,
Okay.
So yeah, I can't remember a time in my life where I wasn't doing music in a real way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was doing music. I already had albums out and projects out and all of that, before I went on The Voice. So yeah, I don't really have a timestamp for that.
So what was the transition like leaving The Voice and kind of being on your own again as far as trying to figure things out?
Yeah. Um, I guess the transition was I wouldn't say it was tough. I knew that when I left the show, I would need to jump straight into making music. So I think that's exactly what I did. I think the biggest transition for me is that I was still making, in a way, like this hybrid gospel music when I was on The Voice, and like moments after The Voice. The transition for me was changing completely the direction and the type of music that I wanted to make. That was the hardest transition. I think trying to understand, like, that I guess the music that I was making was putting me in a box that I didn't want to be in anymore, dealing with like leaving the church, in a professional sense, like leaving the church and not, being a worship leader on Sundays, but having to like make the music that I felt was more true to myself. That was a hard transition on some personal level shit.
Yeah.
But leaving the show wasn't hard. I knew I had to be a professional and show up to work. So
I was going to say, talk about that transition from being in the church and making music in the church and having people listen to your music that are in the church, and then you being an adult now growing into different forms of music that
yeah,
don't necessarily revolve around gospel and the church. What was that
yeah.
transition like?
I think it just took me a long time to come to grips with the fact that, like, my belief system and what I believe to be true about God, about, mankind in relation to God, like, I had to come to grips with the fact that it was about me being a good person. And I think for so long in my life, my relationship with God was centered around the music. And obviously, because I was grateful that he gave me a gift, I was, grateful that I was able to use my voice and help people, in a very real way. But I think the realization that I could still help people and by being a good man, what I'm saying, by treating my neighbor fairly and loving on as many people as I could. I think that was the point where I was like, okay, this music is okay for me to make, because like it'd be like you being in a relationship with your girl and you base the whole relationship on something mundane as like the place where you met, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And then you go 10 years like only reliving this part of your relationship and not really diving into the other parts that can make it great, the other parts that can make it special. And I think I just based my relationship with God on the music because that was the thing that was most tangible, right? That was the thing I could feel. That was the thing I could make. You know, I could see how people responded to it. But I had to get to a point in my grown up years that my relationship with God is about a human trying to connect with the spirit, not necessarily, you know, the music that I'm making. And once I got past that, I was just able to be free and make the music that feels good. And I still reference God in my music, you know. I still say, like, when I'm talking about, you know, a woman or my woman, I say that, you know, there's through her, there's proof that there's a God, you know what I'm saying? So I still reference that because it's my belief system, is what I believe. But I think I was put on this earth to do more than just, you know, write songs about God. My life could also be the song about God, you know. And that's how I got over it, you know.
And you see that in the intro too. You have a lot of God references and just bringing in choirs and things like that in the music sonically. So it's still all there. Did you get any pushback from certain people when you made this transition or no?
I definitely got pushback from the people like in the church, you know. But then there were certain people in the church that are like more high profile that still rock with me, that I can still text, you know, and still connect with on just some human stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's super dope. There's a lot of people in my life who I met in the church that are still there, but fully support what I do and are proud of me for, you know, taking some steps and becoming, you know, very serious about my position in the music industry. And understanding that I mean, even the gospel industry is still a part of this vast thing that we call the music industry. So I'm still a useful person. Like, if I can connect somebody in the gospel industry with somebody in my secular world, I've been a conduit for that. You know, like a prime example is Chance and Kiara shared, like being able, like Kiara is another person that I'm still cool with from the gospel side of things, but I was able to connect the dots for her to be on his last album and connect the dots, you know, for her to perform on Kimmel, you know, with Chance. So like, that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to be a good person. I can't really, you know, I can't really spend too much time thinking about what people think about my music that knew me before I started making it, right? If you knew me before I started making it, then you know I've always been this person. I've always been one that was there to help, always there, you know, to help others succeed, and that's still who I am to this day. I've taken a personal stance on trying to help myself succeed, and if that offends you, then I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you know, we all got to get better. We all got to realize and be truthful with ourselves about what we want, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well said. And let's transition into Roc Nation, man.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that experience, how it's like being associated with such a illustrious brand that everybody values and talks about. You know, talk to us about the process of getting there and how it's been.
It's been a journey, man. Like I truly um am grateful and thankful for just being in the right place at the right time. Um I never really saw myself as being a signed artist, like a traditional signed artist. I always thought I would sound like a pub deal, you know what I'm saying, and be one of those people, but kind of release music independently. But if I had to sign to a label, this is the one I would have chosen. So I'm very grateful that it happened in that way. Um, I think Roc Nation has an incredible way of picking career artists. And that for me was a big reason. You know, a lot of labels, and this is no slight to them, you know, they get it how you live, you got to make your money. But a lot of labels see talent in way shorter terms. You know, it's evident of the types of deals that they give these artists. It's evident in the way they market and push them. the way opportunities arise for them. You know, you'll hear an artist for a year solid, and then they just kind of go away unless, you know, unless the marketing push did what it was supposed to do. And what I love about Roc Nation is I've changed my mind so many times about what I want to do and the music that I'm making. Um, and they still believe in it because they see the vision for a lot longer than, you know, while one trend is popular, right? They sign artists that really have staying power. You think about the roster that's already there. You think about a Hove who has been in this industry for a very, very long time. You think about a Rihanna, you know, who is just ever changing, ever morphing into, you know, whatever she wants to be. And I think that it takes a Rhapsody. Like Rhapsody has been bodying records since, I mean, the first time I heard it was To Pimp a Butterfly, but
Yeah.
she, you know, like they pick career artists, they pick people that have staying power. So I'm very, very lucky to be in that number. I'm lucky to be the first male R&B singer that they've signed. That means that they believe, right? And that means a lot to me as an artist. I think we can try to be cool about it, but we really want people to love us. We really want people to rock with our music. We want people to invest the way that we've invested our time and our energy into it. And I think having a label like Roc Nation, I feel good about what they're doing for me and what they believe in as, you know, my career long term, you know.
Mm-hmm. Man, I think the Roc Nation move is also huge for people because it's almost not necessarily a status of a symbol of status, but it's a badge of your hard work
Yeah.
throughout the years to get there. Just talk about, for a lot of the artists that are going to be watching this, the journey that it takes to go from starting out your journey when nobody's listening to you to being
Yeah.
able to get in these certain rooms, working with these artists, working with these labels, and just talk about the grind you've had to endure to get to where you're at right now.
I think, you know, I encourage, like, there's a lot of artists who are very close to me in my friend group that, you know, a year ago, we weren't having these label conversations, right? So, I mean, or 2 years ago, sorry, we weren't having these label conversations. I've been signed to Roc Nation since 2019. So, and we just kind of kept it quiet. I think we really got to change the verbiage around what it takes, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you consider the thing that you love, the thing that you wake up every morning and think about, a grind, then eventually you're going to burn yourself out. I think it takes a lot of patience, obviously, to break through glass ceilings and bust down doors. It takes a lot of patience, right? But I think the thing that it takes the most is perseverance and a healthy outlook on what you can accomplish. I think early in my career, I was overzealous about, like, what I expected. Not, no pun intended, but like
Mm-hmm.
I expected things to happen quickly because I was talented. I expected things to happen quickly because I was different. But I think talent and difference takes a lot of time to cut through because there's so much sameness around. So if you don't have perseverance, if you don't have patience, and you know you're different and you know you're talented, this might not be the business for you, because I'm a living witness that it's going to take patience and perseverance. And you got to have a healthy outlook on what you think you're doing and what you expect. I think the real trick is, the math works like this. If you do this every day, you're going to get better at it. You're going to get quicker at it. You're going to get more efficient at it. And eventually, those things will be the reason why you get in the door, right? The fact that you can get your ideas out quickly and it doesn't take you all day to do it means you'll make 5 beats a day, 10 beats a day versus somebody's 1. And you having 5 to 10 beats or 5 to 10 songs to choose from makes your candidacy pool a lot bigger, right? So you got to do this every day, and you got to be patient with the system, because it is a system. What I've noticed, especially in R&B, is that certain trends happen for a certain time, and we got these types of artists, and then somebody broke through that, and then it opened another door for the type of artist that maybe I am, right? And what's going to happen is we're going to break through another door, and that next person who's different, that next person who's super talented is going to have another opportunity to get in. But if you stop working in between all those opportunities, then you have nothing to show for when the door is open for you. I think we're looking to bust doors down, but I think we should be actively every day seeking the doors that are opening, like right in front of us, whether it's a big door, a big shiny door, or it's a little door that you got to crawl through a little bit. I think we really need to take some inventory on what we expect and shape that in a way that we don't get burnt out by calling it a grind. Or we, I hear people say like we burn in the midnight oil and all that stuff, but it's like, yeah, but are you burnt out too? Mm-hmm. Because then you're not useful. You're not useful, if you're burnt out and you have no energy. Man, take some rest, take some breaks, go find some water, go find a beach, like recenter, you know what I'm saying? Like live normally. I always tell people, live like you're at that place, right? You wouldn't be stressed out if you could work in the best studio with the best engineers and the best sounds, right? All right, so create yourself an environment where you're not stressed out in your now, right? Like that's how I've done it. That's how a lot of my friends have done it. Like they focused on the creation, they focused on the patience, and they made it happen, and that's my encouragement for artists. Like it will happen. It's bound to, if you're working on it every day. So you just got to keep doing it, man. And recognize too, when something is an opportunity, even if it's not wrapped up as tightly and as beautifully as you thought it would be, right?
Mm-hmm. And how do you give yourself breaks? You talk about doing this every single day, getting better, the consistency, the perseverance. Yeah. What are some things that you do to keep yourself fresh while you're making music and content every single day?
I watch a lot of stand-up comedy. That's my thing. Even when I'm driving, I love to drive. That's another way I relax. And I get to do 2 things at once. I get to listen to music, see what's out there, listen to stuff that I made in the car, see how it feels. But I watch a lot of stand-up comedy and I listen to a lot of stand-up comedy. My girl has this rule that she doesn't go to bed without like watching something that doesn't require her to think so much, like a sitcom or something, because we're inundated with the news. We are inundated with our life struggles. We're inundated with the grind, the hustle. I think it's important to take a moment and not think about that. Think about something different or do something that relaxes you. Like, and for some that's exercise, for some that's, taking a walk around the neighborhood or walking the dog. But I think you have to have some sense of balance, something that doesn't have to do with the hustle that you love to do, and you can spend 30 minutes to an hour doing, not every day, because obviously time doesn't afford us to do that, but yeah, at least, once or twice a week, I stop what I'm doing. I watch something funny, or I watch something that's going to inspire me. I watch a documentary, or something that's going to make me think, but think about something other than how many mixes I got to turn in, or how, what I'm saying? Like, yeah. How many features I got to do. God, that's the one that stresses me out. It's the features. And rewrites. Features and rewrites stress me the hell out.
Why?
Because a feature, obviously, you want to be great for, right? So that takes a lot of thought. And you don't want to just throw something together. You got an opportunity to be on an artist project that might be bigger than you or doing more numbers. Like you don't want to mess
know
up.
what song is gonna go.
Right. So that gives me a lot of anxiety. And then rewrites give me a lot of anxiety. Rewrites give me a lot of anxiety, especially when it's mine. Like when I've submitted something and I'm the only writer on there and they're like, we want you to rewrite this verse again. And it's like, oh my God, like I had to search really deep to find this thing that you said is not cool enough. And then it also stresses me out when somebody gives me a song that they might like the first verse on, but they want me to rewrite the second verse. That stresses me out often too. But in the way I deal with that is I don't take on too much at once. My team, everybody who knows me, who works with me knows, like, I'm not going to stress myself out about it. So you got to give him some time. So if you need me to do a feature, like give me 3 or 4 weeks to turn that around, unless it's like super urgent, and we'll stop everything and do it. But yeah, give me like 3 to 4 weeks to just sit with the record, ride around with it, fill out what I want to say. And then with rewrites, those deadlines are shorter, but I also pad myself in enough time to be able to process it, right? That's something that me and my team have really been trying to take inventory on, like how we utilize our time, also how we charge for our time. And because that's important, right? Like we want to be we're in this business to make money. Like, let's just keep it a buck.
Absolutely.
So we're also in this business to inspire. We're also in this business to create, but we're in this business to make money. And I have to be very, very careful with my time because it's cliche, but now I recognize like time really is money.
Yeah.
And so for my time, I'm gonna need money. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So money is also time. Like if you give me money, you got my time. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So we've been trying to be very careful this year, especially because I have a project to promote and music videos coming out and all of that. Just trying to be really careful about the usage of my time. And I encourage artists to get in that habit now, even if your time, like right now, your time is $100, mm-hmm. Charge that so it can feel worth your time, and that's a life hack for, it don't matter if you make music or just do other things creatively. I used to be a graphic designer. I charged by the hour. Mm-hmm. Because it was for my time, and there was a point where I could only charge $50 an hour. But you know what happened? I got really, really good, really, really efficient with my time. And then my time cost more money. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So I went from doing $50 an hour to $250 an hour. Hmm. And that's, but I learned how to use my time really well and, was able to quantify how much my time costs.
Yeah, you're self-sufficient, man. Graphic design, you play instruments, and it's present in the album and the project. Let's get into it, Darling. So what space were you in when you made this project? Because we've got a lot of different sounds. The intro, Darling, you've got a very soulful gospel influence. We've got Every Little Piece of My Heart. There's a lot of different R&B sounds that are in this. What place were you in when you made this project mentally? What was the purpose?
Mentally I was scared because the pandemic started and I was out in LA when the pandemic started. I flew back to Chicago and we knew we were going to be inside. So I got nervous because I had just got signed and I hadn't put out but one song through the label. And it wasn't a song that was slated to go on a project. I just put it out in honor of my father. And so I was already nervous. Like I was checking my phone for every New York or LA number to basically tell me like, we gonna halt on the deal. And it was happening around me. You know what I'm saying? Like people were doing brand deals that got, shut down for the moment. And, so I was nervous, honestly. And I think what got me into making the project was I'm not gonna hold you. It really was Breonna Taylor. And watching what the world felt about a woman.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and specifically, obviously, a Black woman, but just that idea of women and what they mean to us just stayed on my mind. You know, living in a house with, you know, my girl during the pandemic, like looking at the way she processed it, you know, that was the start for it. And the first song I wrote was Every Little Piece of My Heart for the album. And that song's chorus is just evidential of what I was feeling at the moment. Like, I watched somebody lose their woman on TV, and I watched somebody lose their family member, their sister, their, you know, like, and if you leave, you'll take every little piece of my heart with you means much more than just like a singular one-to-one relationship. It was a much broader perspective that I was going for with that. And that was the start, the pandemic and Breonna. That both of those things, I couldn't get those things out of my mind. So obviously I wanted to make something that would make my label go,
yeah, happy.
We got to keep them, you know? But also just thinking about women, what they mean to me in my life during that time, not being able to see my mom for months. It was a lot happening. And so I knew that I wanted to make a project about women, for women, also knowing that I don't know everything, right? So I'm asking a lot of questions on the album too. And making a lot of statements and leaving the floor open for them to respond, like on Yours, you know, with India. So like, and with Anaya. I really wish I could tell everybody who the original feature was on Rider, but I think it'll come out at some point. But I always knew I wanted to leave that space open for dialogue, right? So when we got it to Anaya, first off, I'm a huge Anaya fan. I think she's an incredible singer. I also think she's an incredible songwriter. I knew she would have something to say in response, like, and that's what I wanted. I wanted the album to be a dialogue. I wanted it to be, you know, I never wanted it to be a monologue. I always wanted to feel like the subject matter was participating in the project with me. So, and I think we accomplished that. I look at the responses to it. I look at who's listening to it, and who's buying the records and all that. I'm just like, okay, I think we did something, and I think we're just at the beginning of it. I haven't been able to perform these songs out in public anywhere. You know, I've been able to sit with my guitar and, you know, post stuff on Instagram, but I can't wait to sing these songs to the women that they're about, you know, and that's going to be really cool. I hope to God I get to do like some festival dates or something when it all opens up where I can like really, really put this music in front of people. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful that people are responding to it the way they are.
Yeah, you talk about festivals and like, what's the outlook for you as far as the future regarding music? I know you've been in the house cooking up a lot of music. I saw you with your guitar for the Roc Nation signing party, so I know you're cooking up a whole lot of music. What's next as far as projects, singles, collaborations? What can you tell us?
I think there's another project coming this year. So there was a project that got me signed, and that was the one I was supposed to put out. Then I put out Darling. So there's a whole nother body of work that people haven't heard from me. And I'm very excited for people to hear that. I think there's more singles, you know. Right now, Cream is at like number 34 at radio on Urban AC. So that single is doing really well. But there's definitely another project for me this year. I think we've always planned to do 2 projects this year. So I'm very excited to have both those bodies of work out and have people discover them and rediscover Darling. The next project doesn't feel like Darling. Feels like something totally different. So, I'm excited. I'm excited for people to hear that other side of me. The other project is like really Southern.
Okay.
And that's where I'm from. So I can't really hide that. And it's really just a more open letter to my roots. So yeah, that's the next one.
You take pride in changing the feel of each project sonically.
Yeah.
You see artists like The Weeknd, they kind of have their own different eras for each project. Is that kind of like what you're interested in doing going forward?
The Weeknd is a big inspiration. People feel how they feel about The Weeknd, but I think the fact that he's able to switch it up and thank you, man. The fact he's able to switch it up and change his mind on the fly says a lot about his talent. And people can feel how they feel, but I think The Weeknd, people like Rihanna, people like Beyonce, all of them have that quality to be able to make that shift because they're capable. And I really believe in myself. I ain't on Instagram or nothing popping off like that, but I truly believe in myself. I believe in the art that I'm capable of. I believe in the art that I'm incapable of right now that I'm going to make in the future because I keep working at it. I keep grinding for it. And yeah, I take a lot of pride in that. I feel like Young, another project that I had, doesn't feel like Darling. And I feel like all the music I put out, I'm about being honest too, and giving my fans where I am in the moment, and I think I've always had that level of transparency with my fans. So I plan to keep that, I plan to reveal my references and, all of that shit so that they can know that it's more than just, what they hear. Like I'm doing the research and I'm taking the time to craft these things and make sure that people love it. But really, I'm really making sure I love it, because I'm the one that's got to perform these songs out in the world. I got to love to sing my songs. Like, I don't want to just sing something for the rest of my career that I don't believe in. So I try to make those type of records. And that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited to have more features, and to get to feature some artists that, people may not have heard of, and give them a platform. That's what I'm here for, man. I'm here to inspire, and stay inspired too, So
Let's talk about inspired and inspire. One last question. What are some of your inspirations in music? You talked about The Weeknd. There's a lot of different R&B, gospel sounding vibes on the album. Who are your inspirations musically, if you have any?
I have a lot, man. I love Sly and the Family Stone. Like, I'm such a student of their work, especially Sly. I listen to a lot of Prince, big Prince fan. I listen to Aretha a lot. She's just so special, But I'm also influenced by like younger artists too. I really, really like Lucky Day.
Yes.
I think he's an incredible artist. Obviously, I love my friends. I love Chance and Vic. I think they're artists that have a lot of staying power. I love her. I was about to call her Gabby, but I love her. Even newer artists like Tiana Major 9, there's just there's so much good music right now. And I hear people say, all the time, like R&B.
R&B is in a good place.
Yeah, R&B is in a great place. I think once we start changing our mind about what R&B is, and let these kids be who they are in this space, I think we'll be in a much better musical space in R&B. I don't consider, I consider myself an R&B artist when I'm making R&B music, right? And I feel like Darling is a very R&B album, but I definitely see myself more than that. And that's that Weeknd, that's that Rihanna mentality where like, and also you think about people like Bruno.
Able to reinvent yourself.
Bruno's able to reinvent himself. Even Anderson is able to reinvent himself. I think people are finding out that Anderson is a much better singer than we thought. And I always thought Anderson could sing. Honestly, I just knew that he needed to be on records that would require him to do so. And he shows up every time, but he's able to reinvent himself too. And I think that's the mark of a true artist. Like if you're curious about something, go down that rabbit hole and discover that part of yourself so that you can add it to your tool belt. And that's what I'm trying to do, man. I'm trying to experiment. I'm trying to learn new things, new techniques, new ways of seeing this music so I can make music for the rest of my life. That's obviously the ultimate goal, is to be doing this until I'm in the ground. So,
man, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Big fan, super talented.
Thank you, bro.
Dixson, R&B artist. Go check out his latest project, Darling, and stay on the lookout. Go follow him. What are your social media handles so everybody can follow you?
Yeah, my social media handles are all the same everywhere. It's just Dixson, Dixson. So that's who I am. It's my real name. So yeah.
Nah, man, a huge fan. I really appreciate getting to talk to you, and I'm looking forward that hopefully when you drop your next project, we can do this over again, man.